All right, it's game day. The Ottawa Senators are on Long Island. Celebrate Valentine's Day.
In Long Island or on Long Island?
On.
On Long Island. Okay.
You're on an island, right?
Yeah, I mean, they both work. It's just interesting to see
or-
how people slice that.
No, it has to be on. So, you are on an island, but in a town.
Yeah. Okay. So they're on Long Island, and they will be in UBS Arena.
People also ask on Google, is it live on Long Island or in Long Island? The answer is you live on Long Island because there is no municipality known as Long Island. In other words, while there are plenty of government on Long Island, there is no Long Island government.
There we go. And hey, the Senators will be bringing some government, hopefully some government scoring to Long Island.
They're also going to have a homecoming. We've kind of touched on this a million times, but this is the first actual home game for Shane Pinto, right? His boys came to New Jersey. It's that tri-state area where you could even call Philly almost a home game. Like, they're all so close together. But even when they played the Islanders before, it was in Brooklyn.
Yep.
So now they're actually on Long Island. So Shane Pinto talking about how this is finally a real homecoming for him. It's a 7:30 start tonight, by the way, for the Ottawa Senators against the New York Islanders. And yes, music to my ears as well. It's a TSN 5 game, so stay tuned for that. We'll have the postcast for you after the game. Appreciate everyone who stayed up, by the way, for the late postcast. 350 views live at midnight Eastern. But I appreciate you for all being there. My lockdown player, I just want to start with that, is Shane Pinto with the homecoming. I think, he scored a goal in New Jersey in front of his buddies. He had the double birds they were flipping off, the Devils fans. So, his boys are going to bring the energy to tonight's game. His dad, his whole family is going to be there. And I'm excited to see Shane Pinto. I think he's going to have a big night tonight. Drake got off the schneid with a goal last night as well. So maybe that line with Tyler Mott can get something going as well. Pilsy, why don't you run through the projected Sens lines for tonight's game up against the New York Islanders?
All right, on the top line, we got Brady Tkachuk with Tim Stützle and Matthew Joseph. Second line, Alex DeBrincat with Ridley Gregg and Claude Giroux. Third line, like Ross mentioned, is Mott, Pinto, and Batherson. The fourth line, Kelly with Brassard and Watson. And the decor is looking a little different tonight, Ross, as we've got Shabbat and Zaitsev, Brandstrom and Zub, and Larson gets into the mix here, and he'll be playing with Hamonic. And as we mentioned, we're still not sure who the starter is going to be, whether it's Sogard or Mandalese. Ross, I anticipate we won't know the starter until warm-ups.
Yes, so stay tuned half an hour before the game right on Twitter at Sens Central, and we'll get you who starts in goal. It's game 53 for the Ottawa Senators. They have exactly 30 games remaining on their NHL schedule this season, and tonight, a big test against a team that's right in front of them in the standings. As it stands going into tonight's game, the New York Islanders have 60 points in 56 games. The Senators are 7 points back. Sounds like a lot, right? Well, they have 4 games in hand. So, not to get ahead of ourselves, but if they win this game, they still have 4 games in hand and are only 5 points back. Otherwise, 4 games in hand, but 7 points back. So, this is the old proverbial 4-point game for the Ottawa Senators tonight. And I'm feeling cautiously optimistic based on how they ended last game, because I truly believe that momentum can carry from one game to a next. I think the first 10 minutes is going to be absolutely crucial for this team. You mentioned Jacob Larson. He's in for Nick Holden. The Sens injury list filling up, man. Norris, Sanderson, Holden, Forsberg, Talbot. Gambrell's the extra tonight as Derek Brassard plays against another former team. We should have a segment called, Is Derek Brassard playing against a former team? The answer is usually yes. He played for 8 teams since leaving Ottawa in 2018. Like, I didn't realize it was that many. That's a third of the league almost.
Yeah, it's crazy how much he's bounced around. But he always knew he was going to come back to Ottawa. And hopefully we can see him play in his 1,000th game in an Ottawa Senators jersey.
Well, we're likely going to see him play in his 995th game on Friday, because tonight is 994 for Derek Brassard. So we'll keep an eye on that. Certainly playing in a fourth line role right now. Played 7 minutes and 38 seconds last night against Calgary and was -1. But hey, still great to see guys hit milestones. And we also saw another milestone, Pilsy, with Tim Stützle scoring more goals now than he had all of last season. That overtime winner gives him a new career high with 23 goals, and he only has 30 games left to extend that even further. I gave my locked on player. It's Shane Pinto. Now, Shane Pinto, I think that it's fair to expect a little bit more than what we've seen. That defensive play stands out against the Edmonton Oilers, where he kind of let Ryan McLeod go to the net when Thomas Chabot was dealing so much. I know the instinct is, I got to help out my guy here with Chabot kind of having his hands full with McDavid, but that goal probably doesn't go in if Pinto has his guy. Pinto has an assist in each of his last 2 games, though, and I'm liking what I'm seeing defensively, and this is kind of the ice time I was expecting more and more for him. Like, since that -5 game, let's set the tone there. That Seattle game, right? He's got 5 points in his last 13 games. Like, not great, but he's playing 15 minutes a night. I think that's such a good area for him to be in. But I think that he's going to get a little extra boost tonight. I'm watching that entire third line, but Pinto in particular is going to be a real key for me, because you look at who he's likely going to match up against. It's Jean-Gabriel Pageau, because the Islanders are deep at center, right? They've got Brock Nelson in the mix, and now you add Bo Horvat. So that's one of the strengths of the Islanders team. And I'm hoping, like we saw the other night against Edmonton, where it's like, damn, McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins, how are the Sens young centermen going to match up against those guys? And with Edmonton, it's a bit different, though, Pills, because those centers like Draisaitl and McDavid play on every line. They're out every second shift, whereas the Islanders are a lot more rigid. They're one line after the next. So I'm really curious to see my key battle, not my key to game. I'll get to that, but a very important battle is going to be down the middle, face-off dot, and how they cover each other going into the D zone, because all 4 Islander centermen are all very defensively responsible.
Yep, that's a good point. And Ross, last time when Shane Pinto's buddies were in New Jersey, he scored 2 goals. So now he's going to have probably those same rowdy buddies and more friends and family. So keep an eye out for Shane Pinto, that's for sure. Now, my locked on player, I already teased it, Erik Brannstrom. I can't believe I missed the Erik Brannstrom goal. I can't believe I missed it. That was when I saw that he scored, I was like, oh man, here's where we're at. An Erik Brannstrom goal. What a game for the Ottawa Senators. But Ross, it hasn't just been that goal. He's got an assist last night as well. So look out. 2 points in 2 games for Erik Brannstrom. That's a big deal for the kid. But in all seriousness, Ross, what was kind of the narrative with Erik Brannstrom before? It was like, okay, DJ Smith doesn't like him enough to put him in spots to succeed. Everyone wants to see more from him. Chabot got injured at the end of the season, and then Erik Brannstrom got that time. He got that opportunity. Well, now Erik Brannstrom's not exactly chasing Thomas Chabot. He's kind of chasing Jake Sanderson. No Sanderson here. Erik Brannstrom in a contract year. You're going to have a small opportunity to take those second pair minutes. You got to make the most of it. And for now, it seems like he's doing just that. So last night, he played up to 19 minutes, which is pretty high for Erik Brannstrom. He's not with his usual partner in Nick Holden on the third pair here. So I'm going to be locked on to Erik Brannstrom, because he must have been disappointed with how contracts talks went in the summer. I mean, you really can't get much lower than what he got, and the Sens were not concerned at all. They had all the leverage in that contract negotiation. And sure, his fancy stats may look good, but as far as points go, for a guy that's supposed to move pucks, he hasn't been able to rack the points up here. So he needs to use this opportunity to start getting some cookies here, so him and his agent have a little more leverage when it comes into this contract negotiation.
Yeah, because everyone who loves Brannstrom will just be like, hey, he's playing great. Like, if he was 6'3", it's all good. Who cares about the points? He's actually a solid defensive defender, and that's cool, but you make a great point. His agent is hoping that he gets some points that you can use. And I mean, it already looks better, right? Because it looked so tough when it was like 35 games, no goals, 3 assists. You're like,
Yeah.
Now it's at least 6 points in 47, right?
And he got the monkey off his back. I think that's going to be a big confidence boost, finally getting that goal. Because, Ross, it's not for a lack of shots that Brannstrom hasn't been able to score. Like, he's basically, for a defenseman, he's got 46 shots in 47 games. So he's getting his shots out. And for a third pair defenseman, that's not too bad. So he needs to start finding ways to get that puck in the net.
It's easy to forget that he's only 23 years old, right? It feels like he's been around forever. In his career, he has 3 goals on 212 shots.
Yeah. Wild.
I mean, at some point, you just hope that like it regresses to the mean, because that's got to be one of the lowest shooting percentages in the NHL over that time period. But I like that as a locked on player. Now let's turn our attention to the New York Islanders, a team that had so much promise when they made the initial move for Bo Horvat. He came in, he looked real good his first couple of games, especially. He was racking up points. Still is. I mean, he's got points in his last 3 games, and that 4 assist performance against Columbus. Oh, that was his last game with Vancouver. Pardon me. In 4 games with the Islanders, he's got 3 goals, 4 points, and he's centering that top line alongside, drum roll please, Josh Bailey and Matthew Barzal. The Islanders then second line, it's Brock Nelson between Anders Lee and Kyle Palmieri. Then the third line is Jean-Gabriel Pageau beside Zach Parise and Simon Holmstrom. The fourth line, not your usual suspects. Both Casey Cizikas and Cal Clutterbuck are out with injury. So it's Ville Koivula between Matt Martin and Hudson Fasching. On defense, it's Adam Pelech with Ryan Pulock. It's Romanov with Scott Mayfield and Sebastian Aho with Noah Dobson. In goal, we are expecting it to be Ilya Sorokin as well. The Islanders are 4-4-2 in their last 10 games, 27, 23-6 on the season. Bo Horvat leads the team in scoring with 58 points in 53 games. But you mentioned that he's actually one of the lowest scoring players on the New York Islanders, of course, only having the few games played. So the Islanders scoring leader for their team this year is Brock Nelson with 51 points in 56 games. They have 1 point per game player, and that's the guy they just acquired. This is a team that's defense first all the time. Some would call them boring. I watched too much Guy Boucher hockey and enjoyed it at times to be able to say that. But certainly they're not a team that's going to try to outpace you up and down the ice.
No, that's not their game, and they've got a lot of veteran guys on this squad, and adding Bo Horvat was crucial for them, but they still have a very similar game plan here. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team lines up against the Ottawa Senators team that is not their game plan to play like structured defensive hockey. They're relying on that top 6 to blow the doors off teams.
Who is your lookout player for the Islanders?
My lookout player is going to be Ilya Sorokin, Ross. I mean, we talked about it. This guy is in the Vezina conversation for sure. He's been a big reason. He's really propped up this roster that had a hard time scoring before Bo Horvat got here. But it's interesting, Ross, because he hasn't exactly been dominant lately. I'm looking at his last 5 games, especially there's hot and cold for him here in this sample size. So his last game, he allows 6 goals on the Vancouver Canucks. Bo Horvat probably wasn't too stoked about that as they blew a third period lead. But then his games up against Seattle and Detroit, back-to-back shutouts there. So that's where you see him at his best. But then against Toronto and Carolina, 5 goals and then 4 goals, both of those losses. So it's been an up and down stretch here for Ilya Sorokin. It's going to be very interesting to see whether we get the shutout caliber Sorokin or the one that's letting 4, 5, 6 goals in here.
Have you in front of you how many games played Sorokin has in his career?
114.
He has 15 shutouts.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
He has the 4th most shutouts in Islanders history. And that's a team with a long history and with great goalies. And Ilya Sorokin has played 114 games, and he's 4th on their all-time list.
Yep, that's the thing. Like, this guy can shut the door, but he's also human. Like, if the Islanders aren't able to give him some scoring, he can't do it all.
He's the Jake DeGrom baseball reference for the MLB, and they play in the same kind of area. They're the second fiddle
team. Even the
team.
same colors.
Yeah, the second fiddle team in New York City, right? The Rangers are the Yankees.
The Islanders aren't going to love hearing that.
Well, I mean, they're the Mets of the NHL, really. I mean, they have championships. The Mets have a championship? Doesn't matter. Locked On Mets will have you covered on that. But he is the Jake DeGrom in the sense that Jake DeGrom over the last number of years has been one of the best pitchers in baseball, but he doesn't get any run support and he ends up losing a bunch of games. Whereas Sorokin, like, I bet you, I have a feel, I wouldn't be surprised if he lost a game that he got a shutout in. Like, that's you look at how many goal support he's getting, it's kind of like unfair almost. But there's also times he's either letting in 0 or 5. It seems like there's no in between.
Yep.
How many times has he let in 2 goals this year? So, not many. He's let in 2 goals a total of 7 times in 40 games this year. And I feel like that's where most goalies like average is like 2 or 3 goals a game. He's either going to play out of his mind, and he's a smaller goalie, which is super interesting. Whereas usually you see all these guys, I mean, he's listed as 6'3", but he doesn't play big. Maybe that's what it is. It's just on the ice. He's got this super low stance, and he's so explosive out of it. I got to see him live last season in Winnipeg. It was the last time I ever got to see Chara play live, so that was kind of a cool moment. Still weird that he went back to the Islanders. Different story, different day. But the Islanders scored early, and I was like, okay, it's over. And sure enough, they won 2-1 was the final score, and Sorokin was brilliant. So it sucks that we got to see him. Obviously, when Ottawa beat the Islanders in Ottawa earlier this season, it was Semyon Varlamov in net, not Ilya Sorokin. But hey, we'll see. They got to get lots of shots, try to go high on this kid because, like I said, he plays very low to the net, and his footwork is as good as any goalie in the National Hockey League. So great lookout player. I'm not going to go with the easy one. I just rattled off Bo Horvat's stats, and we've seen Bo Horvat this year. I am actually curious, how has Bo Horvat done against the Ottawa Senators? Because he played with Vancouver in Ottawa earlier this year in front of Ryan Reynolds, and they beat the wheels off Ottawa. Yeah, he had 2 goals in that game in Ottawa earlier on this season. So, of course, we'll be watching to see how Bo Horvat does. But where I'm really intrigued is Matthew Barzal and how this fixes him in the sense of he's never been a good face-off player, and now he doesn't have to be. And since the arrival, right, he had a goal and 2 assists against Vancouver, thanks to Bo Horvat a little bit on there. So he's only taken 1 face-off in the last 4 games since Bo Horvat got to town. He is he's in the Tim Stützle camp, but even less so. They're just keeping him on wing, which is interesting because you think a player like that, the shiftiness. I mean, Timmy at times was compared to Barzal in his draft year with the shiftiness, the skating, the edge work, all that. I think Timmy obviously higher ceiling, but Barzal is such a shifty player that you would feel would work best in the middle of the ice. But I'm curious to see how it's going to translate in a long-term role as a winger. And I think it could be good for him, but I'll be interested to see how it comes out. So I'll be keeping my eye on Matthew Barzal, who had just ended a point streak against Montreal. He was previously on a 4-game heater where he had 6 points in those 4 games. So very intrigued to see Matthew Barzal, who had a zeros stat line against Ottawa. No shots, no hits, no points. Absolutely nothing in 21 minutes of ice time.
That's impressive, honestly. Like, what are you doing out there?
What are you doing? A public skate.
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez.
Key to victory tonight, Pils.
My key to victory, you kind of mentioned it. Like you mentioned, okay, the game you're at, the Islanders scored a goal. They're going to park the bus. They're going to get the win. That hasn't worked out recently, Ross, as they lost. They blew a 3rd period lead to the Vancouver Canucks, a team that is spiraling out of control and selling off guys faster than they can handle. And then they blew another game that they were leading to the Montreal Canadiens. So this is a team that, sure, they thought, okay, we're going to bring Horvat in here. He's having a career year scoring goals. We're not going to have to worry about that. We're going to get the lead. Not only is Sorokin going to shut it down, and we've got our Pelech-Pulock pair to shut things down, but we're going to have Horvat to score here. It's not going to be an issue. Well, it has been an issue the last 2 games. So my key to victory, and works perfectly, Ross, the Ottawa Senators were just able to erase a 2-goal deficit and come back for the win. So my key to victory here is if you're down in the 3rd, you're not down and out. This team can come back. The Islanders have been known to blow leads here. So key to victory is keep the pedal to the metal, especially in the 3rd period.
And hey, 3 days off, 2 full days off after this one before Friday's game, boots on the ground with us, GLEBE Central Pub. And the Senators, when trailing after 2 periods, are 1-0-0 in their last 1 game. So how's that?
Love it.
2-19-2 on the season in those situations. But hey, doesn't matter. Tonight's a new game against the Islanders. My key to victory is use special teams to your advantage. I'm between that, which they need to, because they certainly have the advantage there. The Islanders power play, sure, you can say it's different now that Bo Horvat's in the mix, but as a team itself, this is not a team that can convert a whole lot with the man advantage. They're 27th in the National Hockey League in power play percentage, behind the Chicago Blackhawks. That tells you where they are in the standings for that. But they also know how to shut it down. To try to score early, especially, would be great on the power play. The Islanders do have the 5th best penalty kill in the National Hockey League. But I'm hoping that Ottawa's power play can come through. The Sens' 3rd-ranked power play in the whole league, just behind Edmonton and Tampa Bay. You think they've got some shooters on them? Ottawa ahead of Toronto, by the way, by 1 spot on that list. So I'm expecting an exciting game with the Senators having some momentum, carry it in, push the pace, try to do it early, and please, whether it's Mando or Sogard in net, please protect the goalie. Keep the shots from the outside. Don't turn this into a track race. I don't think the Islanders want it either, but make sure that the goalies have as easy a night as they possibly can. Sens hold them to under 25 shots. I'm confident it's a win. Anything else, I think it's just a toss-up for tonight.
And Ross, not only protect them in the sense like make sure there's no rebounds or let them see shots, but physically protect them. Like, this is an Islanders team with a lot of power forwards. You look at guys like Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, that like to play up in the slot, and they like to get real close to the goalie to try to get rebounds, tips, deflections. So don't have those guys crash in the crease. Don't have them getting Sogard or Mando, whoever it is, out of their comfort zone. Allow them to have space and allow them to do their work. And that's key for me.
I love it. We're going to see a great game tonight. I'm willing it into existence because, like we said, Friday, boots on the ground, Glebe Central Pub, shuttle to the game, shuttle back. We're in 321. We're going to have an absolute blast at the game, but the vibes will be so good. Sogard, they'll be so good if the Sens can win tonight. Right now, the Sens have 5 wins in their last 6 games. Can they make it 6 and 7? We'll find out tonight at 7:30. Stay tuned after the game for the postcast. It might be a bit later. We're going to be, we'll head over to Twitter at Sens Central. We'll let you know as soon as we realize what we can do. If you're with your loved ones tonight, I know it's Valentine's Day. The postcast is always available for you on replay on YouTube, wherever you download your podcast. And if you just need a quick hitter in the morning, right before you go to work, whatever it is, the Sens Central Standout segment of the postcast is posted on YouTube as its own standalone video, never more than like 12 minutes. So a nice quick hitter for you. But if you want, join us in the postcast. The vibes are absolutely elite, and we can't wait to see you there tonight after the Senators take on the Islanders in New York on Long Island at 7:30 tonight.